next question from me is, how do we approach gatekeepers in the modern world? Josh, you just mentioned, I mean, I don't call anyone, not for 10 years, never. Not without a relationship, not without some kind of oh, here's my friend Tyler, look at everything he's done. I don't cold call anybody that I haven't met face to face or have been introduced to. And every single person in the entire media composer world that I deal with that's not a composer, they say the same thing. They have heard from, even today, I got 5 calls from composers I've never heard of. So let's talk about, how do we approach decision makers? And Josh, why don't you start us on this one?
I mean, there are many ways of doing it, and you have to be very patient. I always like face-to-face. I'm not someone who does great business development online or via emails or texts or social media. Definitely, it's a perception shifting thing, social media. You might think somebody's really cool when they connect with you on social media and you find out they're not, or they can pretend they're someone they're not. I think that's always the fear. But I like to connect directly, and great places to do it are, if you have access to industry mixers or networking scenarios that you've heard about, or a friend's heard about, or a friend of a friend's heard about, that's cool. Similar to that are conferences, which I think are actually really cool to go to. Some conferences are really small, regional. Some are like global. There's one going on in France right now, the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity.
I have friends there. Yeah,
I used to go every year, and I was very involved in it. I had some other stuff to do that's also super cool that I've been dealing with this week, and that's a great one. And it seems like everyone goes, who are at a certain level in the business, and they don't pay the money to go to the actual Palais, they call it, the Palais de Festival, where they have the Cannes Film Festival, like all the internal theaters, and where they do all the presentations. People just hang out just to network, and they feel like it's worth it to fly out there and stay wherever you can and just hang. And it's kind of like, chances are you're just going to bump into somebody randomly who can be of some sort of help or be a nice connection. I have found always that when I am at a conference, I go to South by Southwest every year, or I've been to Cannes, like I said, or I was just in Toronto for Canadian Music Week. I love when I meet someone I've never met before, who I know nothing about, who just seems really interesting, and we develop this connection. And that's what I always shoot to do year after year at all these things, meet someone new who could be really interesting and dynamic. And I think most people go to these things to do that. So a lot of the gatekeepers, they're hanging out at these conferences. South by Southwest is a really big one. Cannes Lions is a really big one. It's a very expensive one. It's almost excessive at times. I mean, who's playing this year? A$AP Rocky is playing. The Foo Fighters are playing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was the only music person there from the US for a while. Now there's hundreds, if not thousands of people. But just knowing about these things, and then knowing about opportunities, maybe there's something like this where you have the opportunity to have some exposure to people. There's a whole bunch of online stuff that goes on where it might be associated with the university, but it's kind of like panel meets conference kind of interaction. I highly recommend kind of digging in there and trying to connect with the gatekeeper that way.
There's so much content being generated every day. I mean, it's incredible, and that content needs music, and a lot of it is going to go to production music because it's convenient. But if you can find people who are willing to work with you and are interested in what you might have to offer, it can be a way. But it may be less frequent to find that. It seems like my experience may be slightly more unique, but I think it's out there. It's definitely out there.
What do you think, Jason?
I mean, yeah, everything that Josh said, and Duncan. I mean, it's spot on. Look, you're in, especially if you're in LA or you're New York or any of the big cities. It's like as soon as you walk out the door, you're gonna bump into somebody. I mean, COVID really, what Josh was talking about with like the live sessions and the whole dog and pony show in studios, and you're right. He's right. The whole COVID thing has shifted all that around. I mean, I just feel like now, even I'm trying to I'm like, I talk to my business partners, I talk to my wife. I'm like, yeah, I want to get out more. I want to network more. As much as I hate people, we got to do it.
Yeah, and you're obviously really not good with people at all.
I don't know. I ask my friends.
No, I'm the
or
same.
The one that I have like one friend. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like, look, I have we all probably have friends that are touring musicians. They always say to me, it's like, I'm not the best musician. I'm just the best hang. And I think that's, and like you were talking about, Tyler, it's like, it's just being authentic and getting to know people on a real level. Like, what do they do outside of music? Who gives a shit about music? What do they like to do? And maybe there's I like riding motorcycles, and it's like, you can bond on motorcycles or you can bond on video games, and it's just connecting in a human way. And I think if people like who you are as a soul, they're going to realize that, this guy probably writes some soulful music and is the real deal. And I think it's just, it's challenging. I mean, we all get in social situations and it's awkward, and we're composers. We're inherently stuck in a box all day. I mean, I haven't had my light on in like 10 years. I had to put the light on right now so you can see me on, YouTube and Zoom. It's like, usually it's dark, and, I haven't shaved in months. So it's challenging. It's like, I think getting out and the human connection is great. Learn to speak, look at people in the eye, and, we're inherently kind of could be shy. We have to break out of that.
Yeah, and we spend years at a time sitting in a dark room. I'm sitting, I have to have the background on, or you'd be looking at my pile of keyboards too. It's, but everybody I know, we talk about it like, oh God, it's just nice not to be sitting in my studio alone. I've been alone in a studio for almost 30 years. I mean, I started doing this when I was 20 years old. And I love every bit of that. But the minute we get to talk to people, any people, let alone musicians, but
yeah. There's the production music conference is good. I know it's production music focused, but there's a lot of people there. In the advertising world, there's, I think, AMP, right, Josh? There's a bunch of a couple of those different organizations, Association of Music Producers, or something. I don't have it.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. And they do things in LA and New York and Chicago. Yes, it's tough if you're in the Midwest, but hey, if you're do a pilgrimage to LA, do a pilgrimage to New York. I mean, I think New York, LA, Chicago tend to be the biggest hubs. But I mean, like Josh was saying, I think with COVID, everything is, you could work in your bedroom, you could work in your little studio, you can do national spots of the quality. You don't have to record a full orchestra, at least for the pitch. If they want to put it on the budget and you do it for a spot, great. But it's a brave new world out there. It's different. And I don't know if it's not as good or as good. It's just different.